All right, I am back. So for this one, I've got a little property here. I'm just going to prepare my raw files in Capture One. I actually prefer Capture One to Lightroom. The one big point for Lightroom is that basically it's seamless between Photoshop and Lightroom. But I do like, in general, the look I get. I am back. So cool. I can see the stream is working, so we can start. I'm just going to go briefly through kind of what I do. So I have quite a few different custom styles I've created for different things. I'm just going to apply my ambient middle exposure. And let's see what we have here. So basically I'm using the Sony a7 III, so I use the Pro Standard profile with Film Extra Shadow Curve. I add diffraction correction, a little bit of a light fall off. And then if we go into our exposure and so on, I'm just going to drop brightness here a little bit. So I typically will add contrast, drop highlights a little bit, increase shadows, drop whites. Again, Capture One handles those whites a little bit different than Lightroom, and I kind of like the way it does. And really, whites control the right end side of the histogram here. So I do like the recovery it provides here. I'm actually dropping it by 100%, but it only actually affects the brightest pixels here. We're dropping blacks. I'm not messing with the curve. Typically add a little bit of clarity, some vignetting just to brighten up the corners. And yeah, that's about it, really. Nothing major. We've got a little bit of sharpening. And I think that's really it. I might actually increase sharpening here. And okay, that's our basic blend here. Not the blend, but settings I use. And if you press Shift Control C, we're just going to copy the adjustments. I'm going to press Control A, Shift Control V to paste the adjustments, and then Shift Control A again to deselect everything. And I'm just going to go through the frames. So these are our ambient frames. I've got the kind of, I guess this is the one I'd like to use. It's got, I think it's got a pretty good exposure, but I've got the brighter one to brighten up some areas. I'm going to be doing Flambient for real estate right now, so I'm going to be doing it basically very bright. We've got our outside view, so I might do a little adjustment on our white balance. Yeah, I think that's decent. Not really sure if it's still not. Actually, we can increase the brightness later on. And since I shot without the lights, I took two separate frames for lights. One, so this is what I would call luminosity light layer. So I'll just use luminosity to kind of paste in those lights here. And then I've got the dark one, which is basically for the lights, just to paint in any lights and things like that. So I think these look decent. To be honest, I always like to add a little bit of a white balance correction, make it more warm for the lights. And then we have our flash frame. So that's just shot from behind the camera. As you can see, it is quite strong. So I'm just going to drop highlights here a little bit and maybe exposure. So I'm going to copy the settings and I've got two other frames here, so Shift Control V to paste it in. And yeah, these will need white balancing. We'll need to bring back our exposure because they are darker. I'm just going to increase the shadows a little bit. Yeah. That's okay. So I'm just going to copy those, apply to the next one here, so they're matching, and that's about it. So we got our next shot. Okay, this is a little bit bright. Just going to drop exposure a little bit. Then we've got our lights luminosity. I think that looks decent. Then the lights layer, again, I might just increase warmth a little bit. Okay, this one has the doors closed. I don't think we actually need this one. I think we're just going to be using the open doors. Okay. Yeah, funnily enough, I just matched them pretty much. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to use the one with open doors. Everything else has open doors here, so darker exposure. I guess this is for outside, but to be honest, I don't really think we need separate one for outside. So I am going to remove this frame. Let's remove the one with the doors closed. All right, and then we have our flash. So let's just white balance that. I'm going to drop highlights, similar to the next one. Drop highlights. Let's just compare. Yeah, there's a bit of a different white balance here. Okay, I think this one needs a little bit more blue here. Okay, they're matching better. And we have the one for the inside. Again, let's drop our highlights and maybe exposure a tiny bit. Okay, so this is the, I think this was supposed to be the base exposure, so I'm just going to increase highlights, and I think this one we can use at the back, because obviously the light here in the middle of the frame is much lower, so I'm just going to use the brighter one to kind of fix that. And let's see if we can fix the color a little bit. Still a little bit bluish. Let's add a little bit of the warmth. This one actually might need to increase the brightness a little bit. Not sure if that's a dust, but here. Okay, I think, yeah, that'll have to do. That's the ambient, and then we have, okay, that's the flash, so let's balance it, drop exposure a little bit. And you can see small space using the flash, so here you can see the discoloration because of my lens. Let's copy settings. So bring back the exposure here a little bit. I'm looking at the right hand side of the image here. This one is a little bit brighter. There's like a little bit of a white spot there, so we might combine these two. This was taken basically to fix the overexposure on here. Okay, that will work. And then we have one in the shower. Okay, that's better. Let's drop highlight a little bit. All right. We do have our, okay, so that's lights on for luminosity, lights on just to turn the lights on basically. Okay, this one's a little bit brighter one. I think I was thinking about this light in particular, so I didn't want to do the darker one, which I really would use for the ceiling lights here. Okay. And I've also taken a flash frame with the light on, so just in case if we need to paint it into our flash layer, if there's some problems. And this was supposed to be, I guess, for the kitchen. All right. And that's another one for the, I think, for the light here. All right. Okay, I've got a bright layer. Okay, let's drop this a little bit in terms of exposure. And this one's a little bit dark, so just going to increase the brightness and exposure a little bit. So, okay, I don't think we need this one, and that's for the outside. Let me increase the shadows here a little bit and drop the highlights. Okay. Right, that's flash behind the camera. I was using 8600, yeah. Right, we'll have to find kind of a middle spot here. Something, maybe 400. Okay, yeah, they're similar. Yeah, I pretty much hit it very close. This is 4481, so they're close enough. I don't really need to do much to these frames. And this one was to create a little bit more of a natural light. So obviously if the light's coming from the windows, this part, for example, of the kitchen in theory should be in shadow. But obviously if I'm shooting the flash from, or the strobe from behind the camera, it lights up actually in front of me. So this area is actually lit up. I mean, it's good for real estate agents, but then I also took a frame with it being kind of a darker here. How does it compare? Yeah, I'm gonna drop highlights. Okay, let's continue. Okay, I think that's another frame just for the kitchen. Right. Yeah, I might just keep it. Actually, that looks pretty decent. I like the shadow is fairly soft here. Okay, next frame. So I think this one's maybe a little bit too bright. And this one seems a little bit too dark, interestingly. Okay. Again, I don't think we need this frame. This is for the window. Just going to brighten it up a little bit, drop highlights. One behind the camera. This one gives me 4.5. Let's do 4.4 like the other one. And looks decent enough. Just going to drop exposure a little bit and highlights. Let's copy the settings and let's paste them into the other flash frames here. Yeah, I don't need that. Right, let's. We need more magenta here. It's too green. How about this one? Does this one need a little bit? Feels like too much. -1. This one at -1 I think is too much. Maybe not. Okay. Then we have a shot from the window area. I think I'll just prefer the brighter one, really. We don't need to worry about too much about this one. All right, this one was with the flash for adjusting for the light. Okay, I think that's the exposure somewhere around there. So we've got lights, brighter lights. So I think, as I said, I think this is just to paste in this one if we need it. I'll actually even see if we're going to add the lights. Not 100% sure on that yet. Might just go fully natural. Okay, these are ambience for the lights. Yeah, this is crazy white balance here. Okay, that is better. For almost 4.8. Let's actually copy the settings. Let's see. Yeah, I think that looks. You can see the stretching here. I think what was it? 12 millimeters. Yeah, 12 millimeters, of course. Yeah, I think we should be sitting somewhere here. This one may be a little bit less warm. Yeah, more or less matching here. Okay, this was flash frames with the light for the lights, I think. Right, we have the brighter one. So let's drop that a little bit. This is mainly, I think, for the back there, right? And this one is a little bit darker. Let's move it a little bit here in terms of exposure and drop our highlights. I guess this is for outside. So I'm just going to increase our temperature there. Okay, I think that looks decent enough. We don't need this one. All right, just adjust the white balance there. Drop the highlights, maybe exposure a tiny bit. Where do we want to sit? Somewhere around here, I think. Yeah, around 4.4, I think. Let's copy these settings. Just maybe a little bit warmer. That's from behind the camera. Let's drop highlights. It's a bit hot. It's a little bit hot, I think. Maybe the exposure tiny bit as well. I'm really concerned more about this area here. There's few little problems here and there. In terms of the color cast, the wood is really bouncing that orange and brown from the walls around everywhere. It can be very difficult to balance things like that. Okay, next shot. That looks decent. Maybe a little bit of brightness and exposure. I don't even know if we really need this frame. Just gonna get rid of it. Yeah, I like this one. It's a little bit. This one is a little bit too dark. I think. Let's see. Yeah, this one needs to be a little bit brighter so it looks more natural. Okay, and we have our frame from behind the camera. Again, we're landing at around 4,400. Let's copy the settings. It's a bit bright, so let's drop exposure. Just going to drop highlights here a little bit. I think it's mainly this part of the image we might use. It looks a little bit hot though. Maybe let's do 4, 3, 5. Increase the shadows a little bit, I guess. All right, this is for the right side of the image. Guess the highlights can go down a bit. Looks decent there. Again, just dropping the highlights a little bit. Okay, that's for the lights. I don't think I need this one. Not even sure if we need this here. I don't remember what it was for. Let's just delete that. Let's not complicate our life for later blending. Do we need that? It's again, I think, for the lights. The fall off on the light here is a little bit better. Might work. Okay. All right, this one we need to increase our temperature. That's the lighten layer for the lights. Okay, I think that's the lighten layer for the lights. And this one, let's increase our warmth here so the temperature needs to be higher. I think this was for the lights, but we don't need the flash one with the lights. Maybe this one. Maybe those ones. See if we drop highlights a little bit. I don't think we need that. Okay, that's quite bright. Nice. I think this is where we are supposed to be in terms of our mid exposure. This is a little bit brighter, and then we have our flash layers. So this is lighting up the living room area. Let's adjust that. Think let's increase brightness and maybe exposure a little bit. That's straight, I guess, behind the camera. You can see the hot spot here. Again, let's look for a nice white balance. This is the good thing is that it's much easier to get white balance without the lighting. As you can see, there's no color cast going on the white items or the things that are supposed to be white in the photo, which makes it much easier in terms of adjusting the temperature or the color balance. Okay, where do we want to land? That's our 4.7. I think let's try 4.5. Yeah, that seems a little bit cool. 4650. I guess 4600. Okay, I think that's it. Let's copy. Let's add these on. The white balance is going here a little bit crazy. It's a little bit of a difference. Kind of all those frames cover, I like this one because there's no hard shadow underneath the cabinets. If you look here, it's kind of a hard shadow. The light's going from here and hitting this area, and it's quite, and this is nice and soft. So I think what I was doing here, this is my light. I'm not sure what I was using. I think I might have used the grid. I think we don't need this. These are some experiments I did here. All right. We don't need this one. I think we don't need this one. Nope. Let's delete that. Okay. I might just use that for this area here. You never know. We might just use it. So if I'm correct, I think I was using an umbrella pointing directly this way. I like the light going this way. Okay, we've already got some, I think, flat base layer there, right? Yeah, this one. Let's add these. Yeah, they're pretty much the same. I'm just going to delete these two. All right, I think, to be honest, this is all. So I'm just going to export everything to TIFF files. So let's do that. And I'll meet you here in a moment when it's all done. All right, it's exporting the files right now. Let's give it a moment. I think we can already work on the bedroom. So I'm just setting all the files here. It's going to take just a moment. Trying to put everything in stacks while it's still being exported by Capture One, so it's going a little bit slower. Trying to perform several operations at the same time. All right. I've put 4 files in the stack here. Oh, that color is... You know what? Let's just get rid of it. We're going to work on this one. That's going to be our window. We've got lights, luminosity, and then the lights themselves. And then flash. Okay. Just going to reverse the order. And let's add a black mask to this layer. Just going to tap very gently just to add a little bit of darkness here. I think we actually might put curves and drop them that way. Let's invert the mask, Control I. I'm just gonna paint in this area that's a little bit hotter. So before, after, before, after. Okay. Let's paint the rest of the image here. Okay. I already like the shadows coming here. Again, I don't want to make it too crazy in terms of being moody because this is a real estate shoot. Let's add the frame from the other side, put a mask, and let's paint it in. Kind of trying to avoid the area here where the shadow is. Already looks decent. Let's put everything actually in the group. Hue saturation. I'll add color range so we can select ceiling. Okay, that is decent. I'm going to add the radiator, which is white. In theory, this is white here as well, so I'm just going to add, just in case if we want to desaturate that. Let's press OK. I'm going to drop saturation. Actually, again, I think I'll use my tactic I use quite often. So I'm going to duplicate that hue saturation. So the first one I'm going to use is for the ceiling. So I'm just going to drop. Actually, the first one I'm going to use is one for general. So I'm just going to drop it by maybe 10 to 15. You can see it tames a little bit of those strong yellows in the image. That looks already decent. And then for the second one, I'm going to drop it even further. And this one, I'm going to be interested really only in the ceiling. So let's drop it by -25. Let's put that hue saturation in the group and add a black mask. This way we can get our polygonal lasso tool, make a quick selection here around the ceiling. Okay, nearly there. Double click to close it. And then if we press Alt and backspace, it's going to fill it with the foreground color, which is white. So that's desaturating it. So before and after, if we want, we can do it even more. So that looks pretty good. Then we have our ambient here. So I'm just going to change it to luminosity. And let's see. I think we can do 50% blend if we want. That looks decent enough. You know what? Okay, let's add full luminosity. I'm going to add a black mask just because, as maybe you've noticed, but the orange colors are getting really saturated a lot if you have something orange in the photo and then put a luminosity on top from your ambient. So I'm just gonna go manually here. Definitely ceiling. This kind of shadowy area. Just a little bit, adding a little bit, not too much. That's where the whole orange gets crazy. Actually going to remove even a little bit. And then if it's going crazy like that, we can go back to our first saturation adjustment and drop it more to try and balance, like counteract it. looks okay. Let's see if we add curves with this type of adjustments. You have to be crazy. Sorry, what I mean, cautious. Just because we've only added ambient to certain part of the image, so as you can see, it affects quite a bit. So I'm not going to bother with this one for the time being. Okay, we have the lights. Let's change the mode to lighten. So I'm turning it on and off and seeing if there's anything else that's being added, and I don't see anything, so I'm not going to bother with anything else. Okay, we have our lights on here, the brighter layer. So you want to expose it roughly the same as you would your ambient, so a little bit more to the right, exposed to the right. Let's change it to luminosity. And actually this one looks even a little bit too bright. We're losing quite a lot of detail. Let's see if I can drop our... You know what? I'm just going to actually use the adjustment layer, just so we can change it if there's any problems. All right, so I'm going to put a black mask on that and then gently tap in the areas where we have the lights creating, you know, that kind of a look. Okay, this light kind of casts a little bit on this thing here, but you know, that's what I like because we can control it. It kind of looks a little bit weird actually with this light on. There is some, anyway, let's leave it because it's in a way as it was. And the last thing we have to do is our windows. So since this is fairly easy, let's do it this way. So I'm just going to select everything first. And then let's press Alt to remove from selection. I'm just going to remove those middle parts. Okay. And then we have the door handle. So we want to remove it from the selection as well. All right, so we need to fill it with white. Now our white color is actually background color, so press Control and then backspace, and it's going to fill it with our background color. And here we go. Put a little bit of the greenery there. If you control click on your mask, it's going to select it again. And then what we can do is add our curves. It's going to automatically apply the mask that was there. And then I can just increase here a little bit so it looks a little bit more natural. And I think that's it. What I'm going to do is, what I would normally do is just zoom in a little bit, go around. So we have some areas here. I'm not really sure if that's something on my sensor, which could be potentially. We'll check on the other photographs if it kind of matches the same area. But we can make a new layer, call it fixes. Gonna get my healing brush and just get rid of that. So just going through to see if there's stuff we need to remove. Again, like we don't really need to remove all those little specks of dust. Okay, really, we don't we don't need all that. So that's pretty decent. I see a little bit of discolorations here. So a few things we could do. So for example, let's add hue saturation again. Let's do a color range on that. And it's funny enough, those areas that I want actually are not selected because they're a little bit of a different color. So these are the ones that I'm interested in. So let's press OK. And I'm going to just desaturate them a little bit. You can see if I increase, we've got really a lot of yellows there. Just going to desaturate them until I get roughly the same color as the rest of the walls. So that is before and after. Before, after. That looks good. Let's group everything. I'm going to merge all of it. And I think I still, yeah, I have my Nik Color Effects preset still under filters that I've used last time. So I'm just going to add it on. It might be quite strong on this one. We have quite a lot of strong colors here. Yeah, it is very strong. So I'm just going to drop it maybe to even like just 20%. Okay. So that is done. Let's move to the next shot here. Let's see what we have. Lights, luminosity. Okay, this is the brighter one. Okay, so I'm just gonna hide the brighter one, create a black mask, and just going to paint in those areas in the back that are darker, just to equalize the exposure here a little bit. And then you can do further adjustments with opacity if you want to just blend it a little bit better. For me, that's decent. I'm just going to immediately go down to luminosity. Okay, we have 2 frames for the room in the back and then 2 frames here. So let's wait, which one is, okay, this is the brighter one. Good. So I'm just going to paint in, just like with actually the ambient we just did. I'm just kind of painting in this area here to equalize the exposure, foreground with the background. Okay, so let's change it to lighten. I'm just going to put the black mask and I'm just going to manually paint it in. So obviously we have a few little problems. First of all, discoloration here. So do maybe like something like that. Then we have a little bit of a dark spot here. So let's see what this one does. Okay, this one should be able to fix that area. Right. All right, let's create a little selection here. We've got a little bit of a problem. So we want to use part of this layer. that looks better. Let me just quickly add a color adjustment here. I mean, I'm just making a new layer, changing blending mode to color. And yeah, let's make selection around the door. Sample the correct color of the door, and just those areas that are lighten mode messed up, just bring them back in. Okay, I think we'll leave it like that. Okay, actually, before I do like major adjustments, I might just apply our ambient layer beforehand. So, okay, two things. We'll actually need one ambient layer. So I'm just gonna press and hold, press Alt and hold it, and then drag the layer up so we can make a copy. So that's going to be our Windows layer for later on. And then we have to figure out what do we want to do here. Do we apply the whole thing? Which I think actually we might. It's not as crazy as the other one was. Yeah, I think I'll leave it like that. If we want, we can apply curves, because it's going to apply to the whole image. Just make it a little bit brighter. Do we want a little bit maybe shadows down? Increase the whites. Okay, that looks decent. This is going to be for the windows. Okay, I feel like we have a little bit of green color here. So I'm just going to bring up the camera raw. All right, let's go to color. So I think we have too much green, first of all. Let's add a little bit of warmth as well. So a little bit of yellow. But now we might have too much magenta. Yeah, somewhere around 8, 9, I think. Looks decent, or maybe a little too much. Okay, I cannot harp on it. Let's just leave it like that. Let's add a mask. Press L for my polygonal lasso tool. Let's do a quick selection around here. Press Shift to add to selection, and then we do another window. And then press Shift, click. We're going to add another selection. And we also have to do the windows back here, because we have the problem obviously with the flash there. So let's see. Yeah, to be honest, like I would say 80% of the photo shoots I do would have those simple type of windows, so it's fairly easy to do selections like that. Okay, we want to fill it with our background color, which is white right now, so let's press Ctrl and then backspace. So that's added on. We have our lights. Let's change the mode to lighten. Okay, so I'm putting it on and off. And this is why I like doing things on separate layers. I'm putting it on and off, and then as you can see, we have reflection in the in the windows. And this is when I take a window frame, I always switch off the lights inside as well, so there's no reflections in the windows. So what I'm going to do, okay, the ones in the back are getting it as well, so that's good. Let's add a black mask, and I'm going just to make a selection around the lights. Very crude, because we're just going to be using luminosity, lighten mode. And let's fill it with white, so control backspace, it added it on there. And let's have a look if we want to add our luminosity from lights. So let's change it to luminosity. And yeah, I think it adds pretty decent vibe to the image. And you can select, you can do the whole thing without the lights, or you add the luminosity and the lights themselves. Sometimes I add just lights like that without even bothering about any luminosity. So I really like the control of it. And then for luminosity, we can start painting in the ambient from that layer, which changes the way the image looks. So I kind of like it that way. So let's leave it like that. And let's do the color correction. So as usual, hue saturation. First thing, I'm just going to drop, actually let's leave the master as it is, and let's do yellows. So as you can see, we have a lot of yellows. So I'm just going to gently nudge the saturation down to maybe -15, something like that. I think that works. Yeah, I think that neutralizes it quite well. And then let's add another hue saturation. Sorry. Press Control Shift R. Sorry, Control Shift R is actually my own shortcut, keyboard shortcut for the color range. So if you don't have it, you go to the select menu, and then you have the color range here. And I'm just making selection around ceiling, and then I'll do the radiator as well, because it's supposed to be white as well. Okay, that's it. Let's make a stronger desaturation here, maybe -40. Remember that we still have the hue saturation here, which is affecting yellows, which we have in our ceiling, so that basic compounds. So we have -15 here, and then -40 here. So altogether we're somewhere around -55. So let's add this into the group. Put a black mask, and I'm going to make a rough selection again for the ceiling. There's a little bit of a issue with the paint. It's not 100% straight, it's a little bit, so my straight lines will be affecting part of the ceiling and part of the walls. And then let's add the radiator. Let's fill it with white. So now it's our foreground color. So use Alt and backspace. So that's after, and this is before. We can group our colors so we can see the change before and after. We tamed the colors quite a bit. So again, this is particular to my lens. On the sides you can see here we have discoloration, a bit of cyan, I guess. So I'm going to create a new layer, call it color. change blend mode to color, and I'm just going to make selection around the wall and roughly around here, around the pillows. So this is all right, and let's do one here. Okay, let's sample the wall color. Just gonna paint that in on our color luminosity, color blending mode layer. And okay, we've got it fixed. So yeah, I think that's our blend done here. I'm gonna group it, merge everything, and then let's add the color effects on top. Okay, I actually just noticed let's add another layer called fixes. Grab our healing brush. And again, I don't know, these are my dust spots, or is it just on the wall itself? Okay. Apart from that, I think we look decent. This thing is crazy. Once you get into like doing all the fixes, you can spend the whole day looking for that stuff. Okay, just notice one other thing here. We should add to our color. The ceiling definitely needs desaturating, so that is okay. And then I'm just going to I'm reversing that selection, going back on the color layer, sampling here the wall. I'm just going to remove that purple thingy here. Okay, looks better. I think we need to also it's interesting. As I said, if you spend time going through the photo, you can start noticing all different problems here and there. It really, it's you have to know when to stop to avoid going mad. Okay. All right. Let's try that again. Merge everything into a new and apply our color effects. Okay. Red 100% looks very, very strong. C50 still a little bit strong in my opinion. Maybe 30. Yeah, I think it's still strong for me. Okay, let's settle on 20. Okay. Right, we have the bathroom, so this is our ambient. So just drop it into luminosity blending mode. That's our base layer. So I've taken this one to try and remove the bit of a hotspot here. So that's really it. This one to fix the mirror here, discoloration. And then here, so let's see lighten mode. Okay, that looks pretty decent. Let's put a black mask and gently paint that in. All right. Let's apply our luminosity blending first before we do color corrections, actually. Sometimes, as I said, some of the colors are getting saturated a lot, and this apartment has, different, it's not a white paint on the walls. So instead of, normally what I would do is do my flash here and then make adjustments to the color, because we're going to be taking color from the flash and then adding luminosity. But in many situations we've seen here where we add luminosity, do stronger blend, and some of the colors are getting really saturated. I mean, oranges are very notorious for that. So if we would have made any adjustments, then, we can go back and decrease it, but I think here it makes more sense to put it on top. So let me add curves adjustment to our ambient layer. Okay, I like it. It's already adding quite a bit of contrast. All right, let's add our hue saturation. Okay, it already made the selection around whites, which is great. I don't even need to deal with it too much. Okay, I think I'll do our usual stuff. Let's go to yellows and drop that by probably 10, I think. Minus 10 seems good. Let's do another hue saturation. I'm going to press Alt and drag the layer mask to this one. And I'm going to drop saturation way more, maybe minus 30. Let's add this into group, add a black layer mask, and cut out around our ceiling and any other white areas in the image. So the sink, the toilet, let's see how it works. I don't want to, I'm not going to bother with the rest of the tap. Let's see what's going to happen once I add the desaturation. Alrighty. I think we also need to add here. Right, let's fill it with white for our foreground color, so it's Alt backspace. And I think I'm gonna add this. It's not pure white, but this one is way too blue for me. think that looks better. Okay, there's some areas with a little bit uneven color, and that's caused typically by the flash shadows. So let's grab our brush, set our layer to color. I'm going to copy the color here and just paint. So you see, we're going from that orange from the orange to kind of this yellowish color that we're supposed to have. Okay, I'm going to just make a selection around here so we don't have to erase discoloration from the radiator. Okay, and another one here. And again, this is type of a change that adjustment that you can probably really skip if you're delivering your normal real estate photos. Those type of corrections, no one will appreciate you for that, and no one's going to really complain about it. So I'm just doing it for the purposes of the tutorial here. So we have problem here with a little bit of a what you would call it, a different color. So there's a few things. Obviously I can do a selection around here and use the color from left hand side and put it here. Actually, I'm going to see if let's see. I'm going to do color range, and I'm just going to click here, and I think let's remove the, okay, we might add this. So this is, I'm just trying to get a little bit of a easier way of coloring this stuff in. Instead of having to use the polygonal lasso tool or pen, I'm just going to do it this way. So it's going to make the selection. And then I'm going to grab the color from here. And so press Control H to remove the marching ants a little bit. And I'm just gently tapping. So it selected the areas also on, if you notice on the toilet here, it's obviously, because it's white, it's reflecting in a lot. So the color that's bouncing from the wall into the toilet, obviously that's why on the edges it's got a little bit of a discoloration, and that's totally natural. Okay, I'm going to press Control H again to enable our marching ants, Control D to deselect. And as you can see, we have quite a bit of difference. I'm going to select it again and see if we can paint a little bit of a different color here. It seems more moving towards reds, so I can maybe drop opacity a little bit to kind of balance it out. Otherwise, we could go into hue saturation and make change in the hue. That could possibly work as well, but again, I don't really think we need it for this. While I'm here, I'm just going to add a little bit of color here. Okay. Let's leave it. I'm going to merge everything to new layer. Let's add our Nick color effect, see what it does. Let's see, 30%. Okay, I think it's good here.